grand.
Now please welcome Jonah Vogel for his senior speech.
Whenever I used to think about my future, I would get worried. Not about anything that specific, but the vastness of life seemed overwhelming. I thought of my future as a reward that could be obtained or lost. I was perpetually worried I would fail to obtain the future I was meant to have. I justified my worried and unhappy state in the moment with the thought that the future would bring what I lacked. Trading my immediate happiness for the promise of the future put me in a complicated situation. I counted on the future to bring me satisfaction, but at the same time, that reliance made me very anxious and uncentered in the moment. Everything seemed very high stakes. Each choice I could only make once, and looking ahead felt like looking towards many harsh trials. I think this outlook is common among developing minds today. We are pressured to build our portfolio, to build our identity, and to heighten our ego. We are taught from the womb to grow, to become large and out of ourselves, which can make everything seem all-important. Each choice feels like a hurdle that, if failed, will leave you falling and useless. The interesting thing for me is that it wasn't until I was given the chance to forget my future that I became at peace with my future. When I stopped thinking about who I would become and the trials I would need to pass to get there, the future changed from an overwhelming idea to a beautiful string of moments. This change came to me on a cool summer morning while 26 days into hiking through the Colorado mountains. It was 8 in the morning, and me and my two close friends, whom were my sole companions for the 500-mile stroll, had been hiking for 2 hours prior. We had already watched the sun rise above the mountains and the dew evaporate from the flora surrounding our trail. We were strong and quiet, having settled into a rhythm with one another, so as my feet flew forward, my mind was also free to wander. I started to think about my future and the things that I felt anxious about. I thought about tests and relationships. I thought about how much I needed to do to get to the place I should be, to get to completion. I thought about the things that for a long time seemed unforgiving and all-important, and I visualized holding those things in my right hand. Then I thought about what I was experiencing and feeling in that direct moment. I thought about how centered and healthy I felt, and how beautiful the world was. This was not hard for me to do with endorphins flowing through my system and the humbling giants of the Rockies surrounding me. I thought about the sense of place and belonging that moment held for me, and I visualized holding that feeling in my left hand. Now, with both hands full, I looked back at their contents. I held them and analyzed their value and their place. The beautiful thing about hiking through the mountains all day, every day, for quite a few days, is that there is all the time one could ask for to think and sit with one's thoughts. So that is what I did. I held those two feelings in my palms and in my mind until the sun had risen from just above the mountains to almost overhead, and I had drank enough water for my pack to feel slightly lighter, and then I made my final analysis. My decision was clear to me. A lot of things were clear to me at the time. I realized that all of my anxiety about whom I would become and how it all should play out were irrelevant in the face of the feeling I held in my left hand. I realized that if I could obtain that feeling of centered happiness in each moment, it didn't matter what type of life I chose to live. I stopped thinking about my future as an external entity to be feared. I stopped worrying about who I would become and how I would get there, and instead, I saw my life as a string of moments, a string that had started with my birth and would end with my death. I thought about my life in terms of each individual moment, and I knew that if I could keep myself centered and healthy in each of them, I would be okay. I would be happy. In that moment, every moment, all the way up until my last, was exciting, manageable, and above all, a gift. I held that realization through to the end of my journey, and I still hold it today. But ever since I stumbled upon it, I have been thinking about why I was so caught up in the confused reality I left behind on the trail. I thought about why I had focused on my image and my expectations of the future for so long, and why I hadn't chosen to focus on my happiness and who I was in the moment. The answer I have come to is that the environment we are raised in simply does not promote that type of realization. We are robbed of the feeling of belonging that we are entitled to as a part of the system of life. We are told that the only way to fill the hole where that feeling is supposed to reside is with the pseudo-rush of lust and vanity. From a young age, we are asked what we will do and what we will achieve. We are surrounded by a man-made world, a man-made idea. We are surrounded by achievements. We are surrounded by the achievements and the ego of humanity, and told the only value we can attain in life is by adding to that world. Thinking about all this, it is easy for me to see why I prioritize the world's view of me and my ego over my own happiness. Those were the only things I had been told to nurture, not who I was in the moment and how I felt within myself. Coming back from a world that was not created by a human mind, but rather was the creator of the human mind, put me in a forced third person. I saw and possessed the feeling of belonging that nature holds, and saw how it is stolen in our world. I compared the time I had with only my thoughts to the constant stimulus of the human world. I saw people so afraid to be alone with their own thoughts that their spare moments were spent staring into a screen that provided something else to think about. I compared the mountains that reminded me I was just a piece within a larger system with the advertisements that singled me out and said I had no place until I bought what they were selling. I compared my need for water, food, sleep, and companionship with the millions of needs society forced me to take on as my own. But on the most fundamental level, I compared the sense of contentment and clarity I had gained within the diverse kingdom of life with the numb and confused faces of the masses living within the homogeneous reality of the human world. And it made me sadder than I have ever been in my entire life. Sad that the average child is born into a world where they are not good enough, instead of into a world where their place within a system is a given. Sad that we are so lost within our egos that we forget that life is a gift and treat it as a hardship from which we must escape. So if there is one thing I hope I can do with this speech, it is to recreate a small piece of the feeling of living within a cycle of life within each of you, and to combat the amnesia of this strange man-made world we have for some reason fled to. Here is a letter the mountains wrote to me. Dear Nothing, you are neither significant nor special. You are one piece among a million other pieces, only a cell. You come, you live, you go. Things keep going, things keep pushing forward, unaffected by your flicker, your brief moment. Your image does not matter. Your achievements do not matter. Who you will become does not matter. It is all dust in the wind. But those facts are not important. Those thoughts should be of comfort to you. They should free you of your worries and expectations, your insecurities, for you to forget your ego and feel this moment. Feel the beauty and mystery of life. Spend time with your thoughts, with your most basic experience of the world. Forget what it is like to look in the mirror and instead simply exist. Feel your feet on the earth and that you are no more important than the grass growing beside you. Jump off the exponential growth of humanity and see your place in the cycle of life. Do not live for the future or the past because they do not exist. Live only for your moment and your happiness. Forget your ego, forget who you think you are, and instead just be. Thank you.